I think you can tell the maturity of an entrepreneur or sales rep by his emotional stability and regulation. What I mean by that is I've seen it time and time again with a lot of offer owners that I work with, whether I was a sales rep or whether it was a client of mine for management, right? Or people that I coached, entrepreneurs that I coached, or sales reps that I coached that were in many, many, many businesses, right? So I've had enough experience to see this pattern over and over again. And also on the other side, this is for entrepreneurs, and then on the other side for sales reps, right? And I think if you see, because you can tell when you notice an entrepreneur, for example, acting and operating from this place of fear or like panic over things that, let's say, one day or 2 days in a row don't go so well for the offer, right? Let's say we don't close as many deals. Let's say the payments channel is pretty still and empty, right? And you can feel this jittery, sort of panicky feel that comes out of the entrepreneur, right? And then what that leads to is a few things. One, I think it creates a lack of trust from the people that are under him. And I'm a believer that a business is a reflection of the one who's in charge, right? Of the leader in that case. And the people below the entrepreneur or people below management would be the same thing for a sales manager, right? Or for a closer with sellers or whatever it may be. They can feel that energy. They can sense the person is not surrendered, nor in control, nor calm and still. They can tell he's in fear and in a very low sort of emotional frequency, right? And that in itself, and that they're doubting themselves, the business, what they're doing, they're doubting maybe their employees, they're doubting everything, right? And that leaks and that creeps into the culture of the team, which is something that I've seen time and time again. Opposed to, imagine the entrepreneur, and I'm grateful enough to have worked with many of these, who, let's say they see one day that doesn't go so well. Instead of panicking, they're simply like, oh, what is going on? We're asking management, or asking the closer, as a sales rep. And then you tell, it's like, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, makes sense. Gotcha. Can we solve it? Yes. Is it just a variability of numbers and data? Okay, maybe it's just a variability of numbers and data. Let's see if another day the same happens. Let's see if another day the same thing happens, right? Or is it a case of, okay, yeah, something is off. Maybe that sales rep is not in the best mentality, in the best state. Okay, let's go and talk to him, etc., etc. Let's bring it up, but in a way that is not without this very low emotional frequency, and simply with surrender and this sort of calmness and emotional stability and regulation that allows for clean, clear, sharp, intelligent, rational action and thinking. So that's very interesting. And then also, so I think you can tell the maturity of the entrepreneur by this trait. And also another thing is like, this is, we touched on why it matters for culture, but it also matters overall for the growth of the business. Because the entrepreneur who's in fear or in this low emotional frequency and like fucking jitters all around, is scattered when maybe things are not going brilliantly, right? It will lead to, for example, him changing things all the time. Every week, every 2 weeks, there's a change. Every now and again, there's like, oh no, we gotta do, no, there's this thing, and like maybe they put blame on other people, and then the people perform worse, and then did this thing, and then like there's a whole bunch of implications that come of it, which you cannot escape, honestly. So that's pretty cool in my eyes, and to understand. And I think it also, now we touch on entrepreneurs, the other side is for sales reps, for closers, or setters. You can tell, again, their skill and their level also by that trait. Like, how does a sales rep act after he has like 3-4 calls in a row that maybe don't close? Not that he fucked them up or anything. And how does he react? Is he like, I fucked them up, whatever? Is he like, okay, well, I'm closing at 70%, and then like I had 4 calls in a row that don't close. Well, maybe that's just like like I got 4 times in a row that 10% that is never gonna close. Can happen. The same way you can go to the casino and like go and bet on black 5 times in a row, and you can win, right? Is that likely? No. Can it happen? Yes, right? Same thing here, right? So there is a variability. Maybe people understand it, and they don't attach their identity to who they are. They don't attach their identity. They don't attach who they are with the outcomes they're getting. It's not like a bad week defines a sales rep, or a bad day defines a sales rep, right? Or a bad call defines a sales rep, right? Or a bad beginning, or a bad segment of the call defines a sales rep. And again, you can tell, right, the extent of this, because it's a spectrum. It's not like you have it or you don't. It's like how much. There's a sales rep who's like, oh, he fucks up the beginning of the call. He's like, oh, fuck, and this, and that. The other person was like, no, he gotta have like a week in a row that like doesn't go well, quote unquote, for him, whatever that means for him, right? Because like whatever goes not well for someone does not mean it does not go well for that person, right? And that is when it's needed to creep out. And that's all interesting and a dangerous game and a dangerous perception to have. And you see it so many times. So many times. It's also normal and not uncommon, right? Little bit of tangent, but also I had one of my sales reps who's really good, had a 2-3 days in a row that he was not closing at the standard whatsoever. And he texted me, he was like, man, I don't know what's going on. I jump on with him, because he's on our teams, of course, and I saw the numbers and data. I was like, okay, yeah, let's chat. Jumped on a call with him and chatted with him for an hour, had a great conversation, and he was pretty much, he simply got in his own head. He was learning new things for sales from and he was trying to connect the dots, but they were not quite clicking yet, right? And on calls, he was self-conscious, right? Instead of present and flowing and just like detached. And was putting so much importance on performing well on these calls, right? And then I spoke to him, untangled some of these knots, and gave him clarity and like a different perspective to view things from, and which also I think is brilliant. And again, goes back to what type of leader are you? What type of leader do you have on your team? Because like if you have a leader that like a manager sees those numbers going down and they jump on a call with you, they're like, bro, what the fuck? Can you fucking wake up? Like, well, what are you doing? Right? Or someone who actually listens to you because maybe he's been there and maybe he has the experience, right? As a sales rep, and has gone through ups and downs of closing a super high level on many offers, and can help, right? Can actually understand the perspective of a sales rep and has gone through that tribulation and can help the sales rep overcome those moments and beliefs in that state, right? Hence, after that conversation, the guy last week collected 60K in cash, closed that at like 80%, and his calls are better than ever.
How did you get him out of his own head?
Well, first listen to him properly for a good 20 minutes in silence and listening to what was going on in his own mind. And then it's the same thing that you would do on a sales call in a way, right? And not because you do it in a sales call, you do it in any conversation that's human, right? Once you understand some psychological principles and cognition and behavior and programs and the nature of belief and the nature of perception, right? You can help people through this stuff. In the same way you can help somebody through fear on a sales call. You can help somebody change his perspective on something and have that perspective actually last, right? So the meta skill is the same. So yeah, I understood what the root was, because you can tell maybe he could not tell at the start maybe. I don't even remember the conversation exactly, but ultimately, yeah, he got in his own head. He was doing multiple things, latching new sales process to the thing that was not clicking for him yet. But the real ground was that he unconsciously, without knowing what he was doing, was putting way too much importance and way too much weight, and was defining himself by the results he was getting. and you let doubt creep in, and then that snowballs, right? If you catch it and you're like, well, just because you close, like, I don't know, like you didn't close 4 years in a row, does that mean you are not a good rep? Does that mean you're not more top in the world? It's not what it means, is it? Right. But how does it feel to hold on to that belief? Pretty fucking stressful. Okay, can you let it go? Yeah. Are you willing to let it go? Yeah. Okay, so like, how would it feel? Amazing. Okay. And sit with that, right? And it's like, for example, I don't know, just like fucking this is pulled up out of my asshole. But it's like, the same thing here. Like, you understand the belief that the meaning that he was attaching to the situation, and then based on the meaning, you can change it. And once you change the meaning, the beliefs change, and then the perception changes, the state changes, and everything else. So that's what I would say. So TLDR, ultimately, be aware of this. And what I would say is like the emotional regulation is like your emotional stability that you have. And this goes for every business in the world. It goes for if you're doing e-com, if you're doing info, if you have an agency, if you're a closer, if you're like whatever business you're in, like this matters the same thing. To be aware of like what are your emotional reactions and responses, and how do you feel when like things happen, right? And if you let that feeling or that define you at a deeper level, like an identity level, that's a problem. Because like it will get you operating from fear and lower frequencies that you don't want to operate from, because it's a survival paradigm, right? And instead, surrender to it and let it go, and don't let it like define you. Just be sound-minded. And if you're a closer entrepreneur, like that will absolutely help with the consistency, with how much you enjoy what you do, with how good you are, with the culture you maintain, with how it feels to show up every day, right? With your calendar and attack the day. That's what I would say. I think it's awareness first, and then being intentful with it, and then being aware of like when it happens, oh, are you responding? And then like you can shape your perception and your reality as you walk along. So yeah, just food for thought. And yeah, happy days. If you're a sales rep, I'm always hiring, always looking for talent. Probably gonna put a recruitment pipeline below. You can fill it out. And if you're an entrepreneur and want to have some help when it comes to managing your team, training your team, building out systems, infrastructure for sales, feel free to text me on IG, and maybe when you see this, maybe I will have open slots in my portfolio and can help with it, or maybe not, we'll see. But